Things are slowly starting to improve in the Far East as more and more countries are opening up their borders to international tourists. The time that we've been waiting for so long. Let's talk about a couple of countries that are currently open and some places that are about to reopen. The first place that I wanted to discuss with you in today's video is Bali. The island located in Indonesia is finally ready to welcome international tourists again. Bali just recently reduced the mandatory quarantine for vaccinated travelers from 7 days to 5 days and is planning to schedule international flights to land directly on the island, something that was not possible over the past couple of months. You needed to fly to Jakarta and then to Bali. This is about to change. This is very positive news. Now, if you want to come to Bali and spend a good amount of time there this year, how can you do that? The good thing about Bali is that the government there has a very liberal business visa. It's a 1-year business visa that you can apply for. There's no age restriction, no age requirement. It's actually a pretty good visa, an easy visa that you can get that would allow you to remain in Bali for up to 1 year. In case you're 55 years or older, you may apply for temporary residency in Bali. This would allow you to live in Bali permanently. The only downside to this deal is that you need to be 55 years old. You may want to look into the social and business visas if you want to spend a little bit more time in Bali. Thailand just resumed the Test and Go program that allows fully vaccinated travelers who applied for this program prior to coming to Thailand to pretty much test up on arrival, and in case the test comes out negative, that person is free to go. They can do whatever they want. The Test and Go program was paused in early December amid Omicron fears. Now that it has been resumed, Thailand should expect a good amount of tourists to visit the country starting right now, because a lot of people are not willing to quarantine. And while this Phuket Sandbox program stayed intact, many people just wanted to come to Bangkok, just wanted to come to Chiang Mai, and they had to fly into Phuket to make that happen. But with Thailand resuming the Test and Go program, things are looking good again. In case you want to stay in Thailand for the long term, you want to consider some long-term visas. The Thai Elite visa is specifically designed for perpetual travelers, for long-term tourists wishing to remain in Thailand without needing to leave the country every so often. The good thing about the Thai Elite visa is that it allows you to remain in Thailand for the entire amount that the visa is valid for. Should you go with the Easy Access Pass, you are allowed to remain in Thailand for up to 5 years. Should you go with the Superior extension, then you'd be eligible to remain in Thailand for a total of 20 years. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you are not allowed to leave the country and come back in. In fact, it is perfectly legal, it is perfectly acceptable to do that. In case you want to remain in Thailand but don't want to invest a lot of money, then you could go with the Smart visa. There's the Smart Startup Entrepreneur visa, which allows tech entrepreneurs to move to Thailand, start a business with a Thai partner, potentially alone, but you need to attend an incubation program to be considered for this visa. So there are certain requirements that you need to comply with before the Thai government will issue this visa to you. There's also the Thai Executive, which is for people working in very high positions. There's the Thai Investor, the Smart Investor visa, which really targets high net worth individuals looking to invest a substantial amount into Thailand and obtain a long-term pass this way. And there's also the Smart Talent. So if you have some kind of unique special talent, you may apply for the Smart Talent visa. The Philippines is scheduled to reopen on February 10th. The country had plans to reopen late last year, but decided to reschedule the reopen to February amid Omicron fears. Who can visit the Philippines? In case you're fully vaccinated with one of the approved vaccines, okay, they need to be approved by the World Health Organization. In case you've been vaccinated with one of those vaccines, then you're welcome to visit the Philippines. You also need a negative PCR test, and you need to also apply for the certificate, so your vaccine needs to be converted, and if you do that, then that would be enough for you to get into the country. There's no test upon arrival, no quarantine needed. Those looking to remain in the Philippines for the long term, there's a couple of options for you. You can apply for permanent residency, which involves an investment. I'm going to make this very clear. You need to be 50 years or older and deposit $20,000 into a Filipino bank account. That's assuming you have no income at all. Should you bring some income with you, and it needs to be at least $800, then you can also apply for the permanent residency. Again, you need to be 50 years or older, but you need an income of $800. And in case you have an income, the bank deposit is being reduced from $20,000 to $10,000. Malaysia is really the only country in the region that doesn't really have a specific plan for reopening. The country was talking about reopening its borders as early as January 1st, but we haven't really heard anything from the Malaysian government about whether this is going to happen or not. Well, very clearly it did not happen, but right now the head of tourism says that it's time for us to reopen because our neighbors are doing it, and by us not moving ahead, we're definitely missing out. There is still no clear plan, but people are hopeful that Malaysia will shift gears and reopen as early as March 2022. Cambodia is among the few countries in the region that has stayed open amid Omicron fears. The country has not closed its borders. The country has retained its entry requirements, its entry policies, and here's how it looks like. If you want to come to Cambodia, in case you're fully vaccinated and have a negative PCR test, that is always a contingency, plus you test negative upon arrival, then you are a free man. You can do whatever you want in Cambodia. Should you be unvaccinated, then you would also need a negative PCR test I think twice up on arrival. Once up on arrival and then another time, I think 3 to 7 days later. So you'd need to quarantine in case you're unvaccinated. The last country I wanted to talk with you about is Vietnam. The country located in Southeast Asia initially planned to reopen its borders as early as May 2022. Now that other countries in the regions are opening up so quickly, the head of tourism of the country has stated that they intend to reopen the country as early as March 2022. Fully vaccinated or recovered travelers are allowed to enter Vietnam through any of its international borders. So whether you want to go to Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, doesn't really matter. As long as you're fully vaccinated or recovered and you have proof of that, you can enter Vietnam. Do you have any plans for visiting Southeast Asia? If so, where do you intend to go? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and visas several times a week right now. I highly recommend that you grab a free copy of my ebook, Nomad Elite, The Insider's Guide to Retaining a Life of Freedom. All you need to do is click on the link below the video. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos. Thank you for watching.